When people think of factors that drive gold and silver prices, they often look to major economic events, political crises, or moves by central banks. But what about tariffs? Can tariffs have a meaningful impact on precious metals? To answer that, we are taking a look back at some key moments in history when tariffs hit the headlines and left ripple effects across the global economy. From the Great Depression to the 1970s Nixon shock, we'll uncover what role tariffs have played in influencing gold and silver prices and explore what this might mean with potentially new tariffs coming in the near future. If you're interested in seeing the bigger picture and understanding what really moves the markets for gold and silver, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. To start, let's go back to one of the most infamous tariffs in US history, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930. Enacted in response to the economic struggles of the Great Depression, this legislation raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods. It was intended to protect American businesses from foreign competition, but the global reaction was swift. Countries around the world responded with their own tariffs on American goods, sparking a trade war that deepened the economic downturn. So how did this tariff impact gold and silver? Well, interestingly, in the 1930s, the US was on the gold standard, meaning the dollar was directly tied to gold. And as a result, gold prices remained fixed. However, the tariffs and resulting contraction worsened the economic crisis, leading to a series of financial and political decisions that directly affected gold. By 1933, President Roosevelt abandoned the gold standard domestically, which allowed gold prices to find their true market value. Demand for gold surged as people looked for a safe haven asset, spurred by the government's own devaluation of the dollar and the instability of the global economy. Silver, while affected less directly, also saw increased interest as a valuable commodity, especially in regions where it was still used in currency. The lesson from Smoot-Hawley is that tariffs alone didn't drive the precious metals market. It was the broader economic decline, compounded by protectionist policies, that led to lasting impacts on gold and silver demand. Fast forward to August 15, 1971. President Nixon announced a sweeping set of economic measures, famously known as the Nixon shock. Facing a trade deficit and inflationary pressures, Nixon imposed a 10% surcharge on imports and, more significantly, suspended the dollar's convertibility into gold, effectively ending the gold standard and ushering in an era of floating exchange rates. The effect on gold and silver was profound. Once unpegged from the dollar, gold quickly began to rise as a free market asset responding to inflation, economic uncertainty, and investor demand. The 10% import surcharge added to the volatility, further unsettling markets that were already anxious about inflation and the weakening dollar. Gold prices went from about $40 in 1971 to roughly $58 per ounce in 1972, a nearly 50% increase in 1 year. Silver followed a similar trajectory, with prices rising as inflationary pressures increased and investors saw alternatives to the dollar. But again, the tariffs themselves weren't the primary factor driving metals prices. Instead, it was the combination of removing gold's fixed price and inflationary fears that led to gold and silver's meteoric rise in the years that followed. And the most recent example from President Trump's first tenure in the Oval Office saw the Section 301 tariffs imposed on China in March of 2018. And while some suspected the Biden administration that followed might repeal the Section 301 tariffs, they decided to keep them in place and they remain in action today. After the tariffs were implemented, some might assume we would see rising inflation and for gold and silver to respond in kind. Yet instead, we saw gold and silver prices decline. The reason is simple. While this was happening, the Federal Reserve was raising rates, which had a more immediate and more direct impact on the spot prices of gold and silver. These historical examples show that tariffs rarely act as a direct catalyst for precious metals price changes. Instead, they often contribute to a cascade of economic and political decisions that collectively impact markets. Tariffs can lead to trade wars, disrupt supply chains, and increase production costs, fueling inflationary fears or economic downturns that make safe haven assets like gold and silver much more attractive. In other words, tariffs are typically a piece of a larger puzzle. When they trigger broader economic instability or significant policy changes like abandoning the gold standard, they can set the stage for metals prices to rise. But on their own, tariffs generally don't produce immediate or sharp movements in gold and silver. With President Trump set to be inaugurated as the 47th President of the United States, he has already suggested he may implement universal tariffs on all imports as part of his economic strategy. Such a sweeping measure would be unprecedented and would likely spark trade conflicts with multiple countries, affecting global trade and potentially creating ripple effects across the economy. If these universal tariffs are enacted, we could expect a complex set of economic responses. For one, such a policy would likely raise the cost of goods and heighten inflationary pressures in the US, making imports more expensive for consumers and businesses alike. This could prompt the Federal Reserve to adjust its monetary policy, either by hiking rates to combat inflation or by introducing measures to stabilize the economy if recession fears grow. For gold and silver investors, this could mean that demand for precious metals might increase, not directly because of the tariffs, but due to inflationary pressures and potential instability in financial markets. If trade relations worsen globally and the dollar's strength weakens, gold and silver could become even more appealing as hedges against currency risk. When it comes to tariffs, remember to look beyond the initial headline.
Following breaking news at this hour here on Live Now from Fox, you're taking a live look at the White House as we have learned that President Trump is now ordering action to be taken against the country of Colombia, saying, quote, I was just informed that two repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia. This order was given by Colombia's socialist president, who is already very unpopular amongst his people. His denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States. So I have directed my administration to immediately take the following urgent and decisive retaliatory measures. And he also just shared that information in a social media post. Some of those measures include an emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States. In 1 week, the 25% tariffs will be raised to 50%. Also issuing a travel ban and immediate visa revocations on the Colombian government officials and all allies and supporters. Visa sanctions on all party members, family members, and supporters of the Colombian government, enhanced customs and border protection inspections of all Colombian nationals, and cargo on national security grounds, treasury, banking, and financial sanctions to be fully imposed. President Trump saying, quote, these measures are just the beginning. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they forced into the United States. This is a look right here of the social media post that he just issued there on Truth Social. That's on the left-hand side of your screen. On the right-hand side of your screen, that is a social media post by a Fox News journalist, Bill Melugin. As we continue to follow this breaking news, as we have learned that President Trump now ordering action to be taken against Colombia after two flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia.
What do y'all think about that? That just happened, I don't know, a little while ago, probably this morning or yesterday. You think George Gammon's going to be happy? He's probably going to get a lot of kickback being an American living in Colombia. But what it is they're actually Colombian citizens that we know for a fact they released from their prison systems in Colombia and sent them to the American border to enter our country to do violent. They were picked up and they were being repatriated to the country for which they are. There are legal international laws that apply, the things that can happen. The cost of, this is a good one. The cost of holding all those gentlemen, plus the liability damages they incurred because of the move that the Colombian government made, all falls upon the country of Colombia. So the citizens of Colombia's GDP affected by the move of the president of Colombia that they just made. And those are legal, international legal things that are already in place. So Colombia pretty much, president screwed their country out of a lot of money. But we'll see what has to come of that. I'd like to see what George Gammon has to say since he's in Colombia. Again, the what do you call it? The link to join the panel is at the top. If anyone has anything they want to add, as you can see by the 420, you don't have to show your face. And every now and then, you don't even have to hear people talk. Because I don't. And apparently you guys don't hear me, which is quite bizarre and unusual. So anyone up for joining the stream? Or put in the comments anything you want to chat about? Yay, nay, maybe. I had a lot of stuff throughout the week, but as usual, come Sunday, I done forgot about it. So much stuff, other stuff's happened. Mostly I have to redo the whole backyard now because 5 days ago, the neighbor dumped on me that he was getting a new fence. And I have a couple yards of dirt that need to be moved and have to. Oh, it's done. I put a video out, Tom. Oh, we don't want to talk about that, Gerald. I might get a strike. We'll let the what is that? 4 entertainment news networks take care of that one. You knew about that? I didn't know about it. I don't keep up. I was, huh? Not the new fence. What fence are you talking about? Mine's on the physical labor I had to do for the past 3 days. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm actually going to be changing that all up, and it's going to be interesting. I got about another yard and a half of dirt to move. No, it was just between the 2 neighbors' houses. Yeah, I'm gonna be moving more dirt and making a. I'll take a video of it when I'm done, or as it's in progress. There's a lot more earth to be moved, and oh my God, the neighbor next downstairs who has the other person who put the fence in, paid to have the fence put in. They don't have a chimney, and all the digging that I've been doing in this yard for the past 8 years, I've found lots of chimney pieces and bricks and pieces, and I was wondering. Finally put it together, and I'll show you guys. I'll get a video. Not all the bricks I show will be bricks that I've gotten out of the ground, but a majority of them will be bricks that I dug out of the ground because apparently the neighbor next door, even though they didn't do it, the person they bought it from during one earthquake or whatever, their chimney fell down, so they buried it in their yard and our yard, and I'm now having to dig that up. So that's extra hassle added. And the neighbor next to me, because they're new and just bought the house 4 years ago, they think they're my bricks and I'm responsible for getting rid of them. Problem with new people, entitled new people at that. Don't know the history of the property you're buying. Realize that the person who had it before you, their whole chimney fell down and they buried it in the neighbor's yard. And partially in their yard, but mostly in my yard. But yeah, I'll show the list. I'll show all the stuff. What, Gandalf? Ain't nothing going on back there, buddy. What? No, it should be pinned to the top. YouTube Live. Oh, Rizflex. Okay. Whoever that is. But anyhow, no one want to come up on stage? You want to talk about anything? We'll keep it short tonight if no one wants to discuss anything. I have no issues with that. And it looks like we're gonna keep it a short one tonight. I appreciate everyone showing up. I'm gonna go ahead and end this because I really have nothing to talk about. Don't want to. I get in trouble when I express myself. I like talking about what other people want to talk about and enlighten them from a different perspective. All right. On that note, folks, I thank you for spending some time with me this evening, and I will catch you next Sunday. I'll try and write down some stuff throughout the week. I'm not talking about that on the channel. All right. You guys have a good one. Good night.